listening to the 23 Personnel Podcast, a Texas Tech athletics podcast where food and sports clash at the goal line. Here are your hosts, Spencer and Michael.
All right, what is up, everybody? Welcome back to an episode of the 23 Personnel Podcast. I am your host, Spencer, joined by Michael. Michael, what's up, man?
Feels good to go 1-0.
It was pretty dang good this time.
Just another game, another day. No big deal, business as usual. Take down a top 10 team at home in convincing fashion. Just a good day to go 1-0. That's it.
Never in question.
Not really, but also I was nervous until the fourth quarter.
Well, you were there, so I want to get to your thoughts about being at this game. And I was telling Michael before we hit record, like there was a lot that went around with this game, with the atmosphere, with the lead-in, with the game day, and all this kind of stuff. Like, obviously, when it's been as long as it has been for Texas Tech to host game day, like you kind of like distance yourself from all this. It's like you see it happen for everybody else. Everybody else gets the chance to host it, and they go back to Tuscaloosa or Georgia or LSU, whatever. They go everywhere multiple times in the SEC. And then come to Lubbock, and they rant and effuse all this praise and just espouse how great the university is and how great the program is and what a great coach McGuire is and the great barbecue that you can get at MMA's and all this stuff. They were just absolutely over the moon about their trip to Lubbock. And it was like I know these people. Like I've eaten there before. I'd order the brisket there too. And and then just like have that be on display to then also be paired with you did what you did today on the field. It wasn't like, oh, well, wow, we got game day, hooray. And it was a tough game, but it was we were just happy for the exposure. You absolutely balled out today. Like we want to talk about like you were there and you were nervous until the fourth quarter. It probably wasn't until the fourth quarter where BYU had to go to a second hand to count the number of plays they ran in your side of the field. Your defense was otherworldly today. I think, like, legitimately, I don't think it was until the fourth quarter that they got to a sixth play on your side of the 50. It's incredible. I was really concerned about how you were going to defend Bear Bachmeier. And what he was able to do was pretty dang impressive. That dude slithered out of probably 7 sacks. You got a couple of hits on him, but you never sacked him. You did force some pressure and you forced a turnover. No, you forced 2 because that backwards pass came with a lot of pressure in his face. And then he was in, like, Lee Hunter had his arms around Bear Bachmeier, and he somehow got out of that. But then he threw the interception. It was like, if you want to look at anything, I think it was what you were able to do on the ground, but specifically not allowing Bachmeier to hurt you on the ground, where that's just been his bread and butter. When they played without Martin last week or their last game in Ames, it was Bachmeier on the ground that made up the difference. Martin played today and picked up 35 total yards on 10 carries. Don't think he was himself, but also I don't know. Bachmeier had 11 carries, so he was leading rusher in terms of attempts, 12 yards. you held Bachmeier to 1.2 yards per carry. There was a lot of times like he was running around and he made guys miss and was dodging and sidestepping and juking people. And then you look up, it's like he did all that and picked up 2 yards.
Yeah. They
Sorry,
did a great job
that was
containing him, and they did a really nice job without having to bring extra guys. They didn't bring linebackers in that much. They were able to get pressure with the front four, which we've seen all year, but we're a little bit concerned with how this would work against a freshman who seemed invincible all year.
Mhm.
Hoping that he would have a little bit of a slip up this game, and he did. He finally looked a little bit human in
a little
places,
bit.
and yeah, I mean but like you said, he still was able to make plays and get out of sacks.
Mhm.
Get out of plays that should have been sacks, but some of his bad plays were. I mean, that backwards pass was just a desperation. That was towards the end of the game. The interception where he should have been sacked that you mentioned, that even I think was tipped. So it was just, there was still a little bit of luck that it wound up in Texas Tech's hands. So he is, credit to him, a really solid player that Texas Tech absolutely shut down today.
Yeah. Well, on the ground, through the air, or at least, I mean, he was 23 of
Handful.
38 through the air, 188 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. I think they averaged 217, 220 yards through the air. So, like, you held them a little bit under their average. I won't say most. A lot of those yards felt like they came late. Let's look it up. Comparison, quarter half cumes.
If I remember right, I think they were the same. I think it was 217 through the air and 217 on the ground coming into Lubbock today.
They had 145 pass yards in the second half. 99 of those came in the fourth quarter. So, yeah, they had 89 pass yards through the third quarter, and they added 99 more in the fourth.
Their one scoring drive padded the stats just a little bit.
And it felt like honestly, it felt like you kind of took your foot off the brakes or off the gas, or maybe it was just like your defense kind of felt like the players on the field, not so much the coaches, but I don't know. It felt like they kind of took a breath, like, okay, this one's out of reach at that point. And then BYU was like, they sensed it and they were able, they struck back. Because in the next drive, it felt like the defense responded and is like, no, we're done with it. Well, you're not getting another drive against us.
Just kidding. That's all you get, despite BYU using all their timeouts and everything. I do think one thing that was, so that's what attributed to my nervousness going into the fourth quarter up 19-0. You think you wouldn't be nervous, but man, that's 2 scores and a field goal, and you've got 15 minutes left to play. And this is a team that has done just that. They have, I think they were tied. There was a stat up there I got to watch. So I missed the first quarter and a half. Youth sports, great. But anyway, I missed the first quarter and a half, so I got to rewatch the first half when I came home. And I think there was a stat up there that said that BYU was tied for first in the FBS with X amount of comeback victories down double digits. And so I didn't see that stat while I was in the stadium, but I felt it. I felt it in my soul, in my being. And so you just look up there and you think, crap, they get one stop and they can be 16-19 looking for another stop, hoping for a field goal to take it to overtime or something. Your brain's just, your Red Raider brain is working because a lot has happened since 2008, including an absolute soul-crushing thrashing in Norman. So you've just got a lot of demons that you carry with you wherever you go. And that was the one I was carrying with me going into the fourth quarter. Was 19-0 is not enough. that just did not feel like a big enough lead. the way the offense was playing. And I know that we haven't gotten to the
Yeah.
offense yet. We'll get there.
Let's
But yikes.
well, okay, so let's stay on defense for a second because, like you said, we'll get to the offense. Defensively, I'm gonna read you the BYU drive charts. Yet you settled into the game. You didn't start off super well, but you settled into it. 5-play drive to start the game, 16 yards punt. 8-play drive, 23 yards. So 8 plays, 23 yards, almost 5 minutes of possession, and they got 23 yards punt.
I would like to interrupt you briefly because you said something about you didn't start very well. What are you talking about?
Well, sorry.
Yes, they did.
In
On
terms of like,
defense?
well, no. So, and what I mean by that, yes,
What do you mean by that? Yes, please tell me.
result wise, like they definitely kept BYU like from getting in kind of momentum and driving, but like in terms of like yards, there was 16, 23, 42, 19 on those first 4 drives. So
Okay.
whatever the quick math is on that, I mean, is that 100 yards?
It's probably half their yards for the game, almost.
That yeah, a third at least, if not half their yards came in the first 4 drives. And at the same time where your offense goes 3 plays minus 17 yards, 4 plays minus 12 yards, and they're getting some positive movement, right? And you're like, very untimely, costly sacks are killing your drives. You got a field goal on your second drive, even though you lost 12 yards because of the muffed punt recovery. But that's what I meant, because like after that, it goes, 7 play, 19 yards, 3 plays, minus 4 yards, 5 plays, 15 yards, 3 plays, 4 yards, 6 plays, 22 yards. Here's your 8 play, 75-yard touchdown. 4 plays, 9 yards, 2 plays, minus 1 yard, 6 plays, 30 yards. So like in terms of like how they started the game in yardage, they settled like it, not that it was a bad start. That's not what I meant by that. It was just like they kind of settled into it a little bit better once you got past their field goal attempt drive where they went 9 plays, 42 yards, which is kind of like, wow, they only went 42 yards on 9 plays. And then
I think
it
that
was,
drive,
you
they had
just
to convert
clamp
a fourth.
down.
Did they have to convert a 4th down that drive, or I may be messing that up?
Let me see. That was their 4th one. 4.
No, that wasn't the one they converted a 4th down on. I think that came. Well, maybe it was. No, because I was not there for the field goal miss. I was there for, I think, the 4th. It was 4th and 1 or 2, and they just got it. And I think that was their only 4th down conversion of the day. They had 3 attempts.
Yeah. So again, defensively, you give 188 yards through the air. Half of those yards came in the fourth quarter. 75 yards. I don't know if those are all passing yards, but 75 yards came on that one touchdown drive. So like, I mean, they had 255 yards total today. 75 of those came on one drive. So you held them the rest of the day to 150 total yards. I wish I could give you the stat now of how many plays they ran in your
territory.
But it's single digits. It's got to be single digits. If not, like, it's just ridiculous. So watching the game, having the stress of like, I really want this game to go well, and him always Bachmeier seemingly finding a way out of every one of those sacks. I was getting really frustrated about like what he was able to do on the ground. To then look up and see like he rushed for 12 yards and he was not sacked.
Well, I mean, it's showing that he was sacked once, I guess.
And that may be the fumble, that backwards pass.
Backwards pass. Yeah.
Is they may have credited that with a sack with a fumble. Yeah, 1 sack for 5 yards. Then you had 4 tackles for loss today for only 8 yards lost, where BYU was able to get 6 tackles for loss. So I guess with that, I want to transition to the offense. I'm concerned about Morton's health, his leg. There were times when he was obviously hampered, and was doing that Mahomes shuffle that he's kind of well known for. Not because Mahomes is ever hurt, but his leg was obviously bothering him. Don't know how many of the throws down the field were impacted by that. There was lots of shots taken in this game, and a lot of them felt like they were underthrown. The one to Coy that was almost intercepted, he had to come back for a couple down the other sideline to Virgil. There was one that was almost intercepted on that sideline too. It felt like he wasn't able to step into it, and then there was that drive. I guess it was going into the half. Going into that north end zone where they didn't convert. And then he was coming off the field and he was like very, very obviously limping. I was like, oh man, this is not great, because what's behind him is Mitch Griffiths. And I was like, at that point, it's like, if we have to go to Griffiths, I don't feel great about beating BYU, because like I said, at that point, it was still a really close game. You didn't end up needing that, obviously, but Morton finishes 17 of 32, 219 yards through the air, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. And he had a bad day on the ground. The sacks, there were a lot of head scratchers in the sense that like he didn't get the ball out in time. There were a few sacks where the pocket looked clean and then he bailed on it like right into a sack. I do want to as much as I want to complain about things that went poorly for Texas Tech, want to acknowledge that like your opponent had a lot to do with that. They weren't a great pass rushing team, but they manufactured pressure and they brought a lot, especially up the middle with their linebackers, who are fantastic. Kelly and Glasker, especially Glasker, I was not ready for that one. I understand the praise coming from the BYU fans about their linebacker core, like how good they are. It's like, I get it now. I get it. I was not familiar with their game. I am now. Morton sacked 4 times for a loss of 46 yards. Was not great. The first 2 drives were drive killers. Mobility was limited with his leg. But on the ground for the rest of the team, you had 43 rush attempts. This is including his 4 sacks plus his 2 kneel downs. But you finished with 149 yards. It would have been 195 yards if you were to adjust out for the sacks, at 5 yards per carry. So when you ran the ball, you ran for 195 yards, 5 yards per carry, which is it's fantastic. Cam Dickey, 23 carries, 121 yards, long of 33 for a touchdown, averaged almost 5.5 yards per carry. Jacoby Williams, 13 more carries, 77 yards, long of 43. He averaged 6 yards per carry. Your ground game was fantastic.
Yeah, and that's what got that third drive moving. I mean, the first 2 drives that you mentioned, one, come on guys, first snap of the game, false start. Couldn't have scripted it any better. So, you're already 1st and 15 when your offense is out on the field. So Dickey rushed up the middle for only 2 yards. Morton had a deep pass. Morton got sacked. Tech punted. Muffed punt. Great recovery. That was one of the best offensive plays of the day, was recovering the muffed punt. The third So the second drive started with Morton with an incomplete pass to Jacoby Williams. Williams rushed for 2 yards, and then Morton got sacked for a loss of 14 before Stones Harrington made his first of 5 field goals of the day. What a day by him. Just huge. All of those field goals felt especially they just felt needed. every
Yeah,
time
for sure.
he put one through, it just felt okay. This is good. Anyway, so the third drive, pass, rush, rush. One of that one was Morton, where he ran into a guy almost head on. Not a great one, but still counts. Pass, rush, passed for a touchdown. So the ground game, they gave up on it early, or those first 2 drives. I mean, they didn't really get a chance to get it started till the third drive. When your quarterback sacked on third downs 2 drives in a row, it's kind of tough to get the run game going. So luckily, and when you're starting at 1st and 15 at home, give me a break, guys. Figure it out. Don't do that. I'm sorry. That's my advice. Don't do it. And then don't do it 3 or 4 more times. And then also don't do a false start and an illegal shift back to back. Let's not do that either. Go from
What? Okay, so you didn't watch the broadcast. So they mentioned it, what the penalty was, and they were actually looking at McGuire on the broadcast, and he was like, "What are you talking about?" They went back and replayed it, and they showed it. I was like, I don't know what the illegal shift was. They had 2 guys moving, but one of them stopped and reset, and maybe because they both didn't stop and reset.
Were they on the far side as far as you were watching TV? Were you on the far side?
No, I
like on the visitor sideline?
I thought that, like, yes, because I think Virgil was obviously on the outside receiver, and he moved a little bit and then stopped, and then Aiken came across the formation but was going towards the visitor sideline. I think that's what it was.
That was all I could tell. It looked like Virgil wasn't completely set, possibly, but BYU's players were blocking me, and the replay was not really great. So I hadn't got a chance to rewatch that, but that was my only guess. Was we had 2 receivers in motion or something, but I just didn't have a full view of it.
Yeah. I will say I was mostly fine with this officiating crew. There felt like, especially later in the game, they could have called BYU for a few more holds. When things were starting to get a little bit, like when the score was getting away from them, and they were passing a whole lot more, and we felt like we were dialing up the pressure a little bit. I didn't know that you could go and review an offensive pass interference.
That's what I was going to ask you. I didn't know that either. I did not understand what they were reviewing and why it mattered if it counted or not, because that was what he said at first at the stadium. If we're going to play is under review, or something about if the try is good, and I feel like it doesn't matter if there's a penalty on the offense. What does it matter if the try is good? Are they trying to figure out where the spot was? But it still doesn't matter. It's just you back up and you retry the try. That's it.
Yeah.
That one was weird.
They went back and reviewed to see where the ball was caught, to see if if it was across the line of scrimmage. It's like, well, if you called offensive pass interference, you can't then go back and say, I'm going to review it. Well, besides targeting, that opens up the precedent of like reviewing any penalty.
Yeah.
So,
that was very little explanation in the stadium, almost none, little to none. So we were all a little flummoxed, but it worked out that they stood by whatever what they did call and forced a PAT kicking attempt. But man, that one was kind of a head scratcher. But yeah, that crew, I remember that head ref. I mean, he has some weird ones sometimes, but today I'm with you. I didn't, of course, Tech won 29-7, so that's probably part of it. But I didn't see anything crazy. I think there was that one play Tech got the unsportsmanlike penalty called. I think that could have been offsetting. There was a guy on the far side that I don't know if they showed it on the broadcast or not, but he was very aggressively grabbing the helmet of one of our players as he was going down, kind of twisting it. And we could see that very clearly, and we thought that we didn't like that very much. And then some other scuffling was going on at closer to the 30-yard line or whatever. So we didn't even see that, or I didn't. I was too focused on the sideline. So I don't even know what the penalty was, honestly.
They went to show it, but the angle, like the camera didn't it showed CD coming through the frame before the penalty, but then he left the frame like as that was starting to, like, you never actually saw it. They replayed it on the broadcast, but you couldn't actually see anything. I was like, well, that was not helpful.
Yeah.
The biggest thing I had a problem with was I guess it was the second half when Texas Tech was driving, when they were heading south. The guy that's on the line of scrimmage, or that spots the ball for the line of scrimmage for forward progress, felt like he kept shorting Texas Tech. So he's on the BYU sideline, kept spotting it a little short. There was the Coy Aiken one that looked like he got the first down, like it was looking like a first and goal or whatever, and then spotted him like clearly a yard short. Like, what did you see to mark him down so far back? And there was another one too that was a little questionable, but that's not really a thing at all. But
yeah, okay, I'm with you on that was the first, and I mean I know I pop in on a podcast with you here and there, but I'm not diving into everything on Morton's injuries. But when I got home and rewatched the first half, that was the first I'd seen anything about a fracture in the lower half of his leg. And I didn't know that. I didn't know if that had not been public or if I just hadn't been paying attention or what. But great scoop by Holly Rowe if that was the first time anyone ever heard about it. And it makes so much sense why they sat him out. And it was right after that play where you mentioned where he was kind of hobbling off a little bit, kind of skipping off. But yeah, his right foot, man, or his right leg. Gosh, been battling a fracture on that since what did they say? Week
1.
Week 1? Ugh. Dude's tough.
All right. I feel like this very latest comment that just came through on the stream may be directed at me from comments I made during the game day thread, asking, should Juice Johnson be fired? Not the first year the wide receivers have been lacking. At that point, I was admittedly, I was frustrated with a lot of things going on, and drops were the very latest thing that were just getting after me. I don't know. Today was just a bad day for your wide receivers. And I don't know how much of that is on your wide receivers or on BYU or some combination. You had so many drops.
Well, there's only 2 credited here, and I remember both of them vividly with Virgil and Aiken. I guess, are you technically counting what would have been a touchdown at the end of the second quarter where Carter, it hit Carter in the hands, but he also had a defender practically breathing the same air as him. So I can kind of let that go a little bit, but I guess it would technically make the list.
So that would have been one of them, especially right there if we're talking about like because when I said that it was right at halftime, so that would have been obviously freshest on my mind. But it also felt like it was spread out, but there were just so many times when the ball would be close enough to be caught, and it just felt like there was no effort, or the ball would hit the receivers in the hands, and you're like, why aren't you catching that? So yeah, only 2 credited drops, 1 to Aiken, 1 to Virgil. But I also look at like Virgil was targeted 8 times and he had 3 catches. So 5 of those couldn't have all been on Morton, right? I don't know.
Huh?
So he was 3 of 8. 3 catches on 8 targets and only credited with 1 drop.
I mean, Morton was barely 50% today, so I don't know.
Caleb Douglas targeted 5 times, 2 catches. Jacoby Williams targeted 4 times, 2 catches. So, and I don't remember it specifically happening today where like a 3rd and 5 and you run like a 3-yard in or something. You're like, what are we doing? Just take one more step. But it was one of those days where it's like, this feels like a coaching deficiency for this position group, mainly because it felt like that for many years before, and it was like a reoccurrence, if you will, of like frustrations. No, I don't think you're making any staff changes. I'm just gonna let that one go. So he comes back and says, to be honest, I never saw what you were talking about. I made the comment from over the years, seeing them. Past 2 years, it was stopping before the first down sticks and curling back when we needed it first. Yeah, that was my biggest complaint earlier, and mainly like last season and before.
Yeah, I feel like this year I really have not noticed that hardly at all this year. I can't recall an instance. I'm sure there is one, but it did not seem nearly as obvious as to us as it did the previous 2.
Yeah,
previous decade, whatever.
Okay, so is there anything else offensively you want to talk about before I want to jump back and talk about Jacob Rodriguez?
No, I mean, I think I would welcome more J-Rod discussion through this. I do worry about the offense a little bit. I'm going to dive into their red zone troubles again a little bit more before our UCF preview, but no, nothing I want to talk about today.
Yeah, I mean, so okay. That was something I wanted to touch on real quickly. Texas Tech finished, what was it, 6 of 7 in the red zone, 5 for 5 on field goals. And I don't want to get into the hypotheticals game because I know we like to roast the SEC and Utah for playing the hypotheticals game. And a lot of this, again, you have to give credit to BYU for doing what they did and forcing 5 field goals. But I think you can look at the score and one, like the BYU score today, like the 7 points they put up was on like once the game really felt like it was in hand, your defense like took a breath and then BYU capitalized on that. Otherwise, they were not able to move the ball at all. This game legitimately could have been 56-7. And I say legitimately, if you were to flip the field goals into touchdowns, and if you put up points there at the end of the first half, so I'm not saying like you score in every drive. I'm just saying this drives you scored, instead of kicking field goals, you score touchdowns. Granted, you're not going to do that for every drive. Like you kick field goals because your drive stalls and the other defense has a say in this too. But a lot like the game in Houston earlier this season, it was closer on the score than maybe it the actual gameplay would have the score was closer than gameplay because of some inefficiencies and issues that you weren't able to capitalize on. You were poor at finishing drives. BYU was able to stand up there and lock you down before you got into the end zone. Combination of those things for sure. But at the end of the day, you beat them by 22. I honestly felt like you could have beaten them by much, much more. But yes, we'll talk about red zone stuff probably Tuesday before we get into the UCF preview, unless you have something to add tonight.
No, okay. I mean, just a spoiler alert, really quickly. I remember from the broadcast, if my photographic memory is correct, which it not always is, but prior to this game, Texas Tech's red zone offense was 95th in the country on touchdowns, and I think that percentage lies at 58% of the time they scored, it was a touchdown as opposed to a field goal. So that will only get worse after today. So I think they're going to be in the hundreds now. Not great. Find the end zone. Stop false starts. Okay, let's talk J-Rod.
J-Rod, he finishes the game with, I was just there and I clicked off of it. That was
14 tackles. I remember that. I'm not there either.
14
Going back
tackles,
to find it.
9 solo, 1 tackle for loss, 1 fumble recovery, 1 interception. The fumble recovery, when it happened, I was like, of course it was J-Rod who recovered the fumble. He didn't force any fumbles today, so you didn't get to add to that stat. But it just feels like this guy he lives around the ball. And then on that near sack with Hunter wrapping him up and then Bachmeier escaping, escapes that pressure, steps up, coming across the field back towards his sideline, throws in a admittedly vulnerable part of the defense we talked about. I talked about how our pass defense, like as good as our linebackers are, they're probably weaker in pass defense. And then J-Rod does something like this to be like, well, actually, tips the pass up to himself to then catch it. Insane freak athletic play, but comes down with 2 turnovers himself. Didn't force a fumble, but recovered a fumble and then caught an interception. It was the backwards pass from the backwards pass from Bachmeier he recovered. It's games and performances like this. Like we talk about like he leads whatever in tackles, or he's forcing a lot of turnovers or he's forcing a lot of fumbles. And then to back it up again on the biggest stage with as many people as we had in town, as many people as were watching this or that will watch it, to have all of the praise and the hype, and then for him to do it, like to perform again. Microcosm of the rest of the game, right? You had a lot of praise, a lot of positive momentum and hype around the program and what the team is doing, to then go out and perform like you did today. Jacob Rodriguez, same thing. He was getting a lot of attention and then went out and had just a freaking fantastic game. I'm trying to mix both of those. 14 tackles, 1 tackle for loss, 1 fumble recovery, 1 interception. This is ridiculous. So glad he's on our team.
It is. And like you said, it's kind of that's a microcosm of how today felt. And you started out the broadcast, oh my gosh, the podcast talking about that, about how much hype came into this game just for Texas Tech in general, all of the expectations, all of the praise, and they lived up to it. And J-Rod was a big part of why that happened. And you see that how embraced he was by the entire ESPN crew and everybody else, and all the mustaches that you see floating around the stadium.
fantastic.
What's funny? We were walking back from the game, and my wife noticed somehow there was a mustache on my calf. I was wearing jeans, so obviously I didn't feel it, but she at first thought it was a spider, and then said, "Hey, you've got a mustache on your jeans," and sure enough, I did. So who knows? They were so plentiful that I left with one on my person, despite not knowing where it came from and not going in with one. I mean, well,
You wear one.
I wear one. I've worn one for 20 years or so now, but not on my calf.
No.
Not there.
Yeah, Rodriguez finishes without a forced fumble today, still has 7, still number 1 in the country. Through 9 games, has 7 forced fumbles. Number 2, Red Murdoch from Buffalo, 9 games played, 6. Third place has 5. Fourth place has 3. Like you go 7, 6, 5, 3, and a bunch of people have 3. So it's a drop off, man. It's
another thing I like about J-Rod is I saw this on Twitter, and my apologies to not crediting it to who asked him, but he was told by someone today that he was approaching number 2 in Heisman voting. And J-Rod's immediate response was, "Well, who's number 1? David Bailey?"
That's fantastic. I love that about him.
Just, I mean, still on it, still just being humble, but also shining some light on his players too, which is something I appreciated with McGuire. McGuire has, when he's been asked about J-Rod and Heisman, he has not minced words. Absolutely says he belongs in the conversation. Doesn't, it's not and he basically says, if you don't think he belongs in the conversation, you don't know ball. That was practically what he paraphrased in an interview with Level that I heard on the drive home today. So I'm I love how much he's just fighting for the guys any chance he gets in front of a microphone.
I'm sorry. I'm trying to do a quick math here. 21, 2. He's tied for 25th in total tackles at 77. The leader right now has 110 through 9 games. That's ridiculous. Quentin Erweiler from Northern Illinois, 110 tackles through 9 games. Competition here. Red Murdoch, the same guy that has second most forced fumbles, also has second most total tackles at 105. Linebacker from Buffalo. So you got that to contend with, but I think it's all of the things, how much he means to this team. Yeah, it's incredible.
Well, we also know that for right or wrong, it's awarded to the best player on one of the best teams. So Buffalo's 5-4. They are 4-1 in the MAC, which great for them. But historically, that's not the type of player that will get the nod.
Yeah. All right, let's work through some of these comments and wrap it up.
Okay.
All right. Chris says Pat Mahomes worth like $1 billion with the dad instincts keeping Pat McAfee from hurting himself. LOL. I don't know if you caught this on the if you rewatched or went back to watch any of the game day or pregame stuff. He was doing they're running through their final pregame predictions, and he's like standing up in his chair on the desk with one of the Saddle Tramps bells or whatever you want to call those things. And like Mahomes is like, don't fall. It's kind of funny. Jacob says, got to get better in our red zone offense. Michael, you got him.
Correct.
D. Wayne just says, yes. A. Steve says, LFG, great win today. I'm going to show that one. I should pen that. Greg Biggs, Wreckham is such a great win. Let's go. Chris says that J-Rod interception was fire, dude. It was incredible.
Just what an athlete to be able to come up with the ball at all in that situation.
We haven't talked enough about the atmosphere, so remind me to get back to that because, like I said, you were there.
Okay.
D. Wayne says, how high does Tech go? Just go up 1-7, then BYU drops to 12. Yeah, you're probably just moving up one.
I have some thoughts on that. I mean, it is the SEC, but Ole Miss was number 6. Who did they play today? Do you know?
The Citadel.
There you go. They played the Citadel and won 49-0. Could it be possible that the playoff committee was more impressed with a win against the number 7 team in the country instead of beating Cupcake Citadel in November? Maybe not. I was looking up, I thought LSU had Alabama on the ropes. They don't really. I think
Not
Alabama's
anymore.
in control here, and they're gonna take care of that one. So that was another thing I was keeping my eye on, just to see if there was another chance for Tech to move up. But realistically, yes, probably one spot. I think that's
what we're looking at. I think everybody ahead of you played today, and everybody ahead of you, except for BYU, also won today.
Correct.
So unless you leapfrog somebody, you're probably just sliding up the 1 spot to 7. And honestly, right now at this point, it doesn't matter. Personally, I would love to stay in that 5 to 8 range. I don't know if it's going to benefit you. I think a playoff game at home is going to be just unbelievable. So just win and like stay in the 5 to 8 range. Like that's all I could ask for, really. Is that too much to ask for, Michael? I don't want to
stay in the fight. Stay in the fight. Keep going.
I don't want to get above 5. Steve says playing BYU in the future is going to suck. Won't be sad if Bear isn't on our schedule in the next few seasons. Yeah, I'd be curious to see how this all works out. If there's any kind of momentum towards breaking the Big 12 up into divisions, having to wade through all of these tiebreaker scenarios and potentially looking at rematches. I know that the potential for a rematch between BYU and Utah, like you look at it like you beat them before, there's a path there. Like you know how to do it. Could you beat them again? Yes. Will you? I don't know. I don't love rematches. And not because I'm scared that they're going to get you again. But I was like, I'd rather face like a Cincinnati, like teams that are on their way up and competing, like go and take the fight to somebody else and say like, yeah, there's not going to be any kind of like weird outside thoughts of like, well, Cincinnati was really hot and they were just down for whatever, some kind of like weird, like they were left out of the conference title game, but really they probably deserved to be there. I'm not specifically saying Cincinnati. I'm just saying like the team that kind of hangs around in that third slot. I don't know. I would love to see divisions again. I am confident after today that I would like your chances against BYU again. If this was a much closer game, then I probably would not like it. Very much probably depends on how Morton's leg kind of holds up the next few weeks. But that's where I'm at. Greg Biggs, Bear didn't get sacked, but he couldn't get up the field. 100%. We were talking about this earlier. He got sacked once. I think it was the strip sack that they're crediting Texas Tech with. Very, very elusive in his 12 total rushing yards. He wouldn't go down. And it was so much effort and a lot of his skill set on display to do that, but also really impressive from Texas Tech to be like, after all that, he still didn't he didn't hurt you. He got 12 yards. Did you see on BYU touchdown play, JR jumped to block the ball and retracted his arm? No.
No, I didn't see that either. That was in the far end zone for me, by the way, with my eyeballs. I missed that.
Steve says, y'all are talking about Texas Tech math, graduated in 12, and you always had to account for a complete collapse. I also graduated in 12. And yeah, I remember this is, again, defensive teams that would just be unbelievable in today's game. Being up 17 to losing 17, Oklahoma State, that's a thing that happened at home to not a great Oklahoma State team.
With Patrick Mahomes.
Patrick Mahomes and Jakeem Grant and Lauderdale, a really good offense. And you go on a 34-point swing. You lose, you gave up 70 points that day. So yeah. Chris asks, what were y'all's favorite signs at game day? You weren't there early enough to obviously be there.
No, and I'm sorry, Chris, but we had a 9:00 game 1 of 2 of youth basketball this morning at 9. So I got to watch game day for about 30 minutes before we had to get in the car. Did not see very many signs. So I'm not sure what made the broadcast. I saw some on Twitter floating around. I saw some, from Raiderville a few days before, and a lot of those you just knew weren't going to make the broadcast. So I'm not sure what actually ended up on TV. I did record it, and I plan on watching it when I can.
There was one that talked about, somebody that asked me, like, why is that a thing right now? It said Adam James is still in our shed.
That's the only one I could think of because I saw that one too, but I didn't know if it made the tweet I saw was just the kid holding it. The kid. Yeah. I don't know how old the individual was, but I didn't know if it actually made the TV or not. The TV.
Last Sunrise says, he's responding. Says, Chris, I'm going to go with the BYU soaking L's sign. Mandy asks, should Morton sit next week and rest?
I don't think so. I mean, UCF was one really strange interception, horrible pass play away from tying Houston on Friday night. Just inexplicable why he threw that ball at all. They were already in field goal range. I don't know what they were doing. There was 25 seconds left, threw an interception, down by 3, lose the game. So I wouldn't take UCF lightly. We've got a bye week coming up right after that. I think that may be when you set Morton. Maybe you decrease his workload a little bit this week or something, but that's my personal opinion. I think the guy needs to play, and it's senior day. Just, yeah, so many reasons why I wouldn't set him.
Maybe you hope to pull him early.
That I could see that. Maybe there's a very short leash. If Tech's up 21-0 even in the second or third quarter, then maybe that's when it's Griffith's time.
Yeah. Jacob says, responding back, Adam James still in the shed. Chris says, LOL, everyone else don't Google soaking. Yeah, if you don't know what that is. Again, this is in reference
I am not going to tell you. So I would just pass by all of those comments.
I do think it was on our podcast. I've done so many this week, which is fine. It's not a flex. I'm just saying. I can't remember exactly where I said it, but I said, like, as a member of this church, what happens up at BYU is not reflective of like the general population, but especially the youth. Like, some weird stuff happens up in Utah, man. Oof. I think SportsCenter top 10 play number 1 should be the Pat McAfee tortilla toss caught by the dude on the end of the Old Dominion stand. That was pretty fantastic. And they actually went back and did like a replay of it too, where like Herb Street was like using this big long pointer and showing it out. So I don't know if you caught that, Michael. They were on their second stage, and McAfee's like, "What do? You just hook this thing," and like he just kind of throws it back over his shoulder. But then there's a guy that was like not like hanging off, but that like secondary, not platform, but like bleacher type of area. I reached over and caught it. But then, like I said, Herb Street came back when was drawing on it and did the pointed out with his super long pointer stick he had. All right. I don't even know how to read this name. It starts with extra. So extra says Jacob Rodriguez for conference commissioner. Let's finish the playing days first.
He'd get stuff done.
Yeah. Jeff says on the review, if he, this is going back to the offensive pass interference, on the review, if he was down short of the goal line, Tech would decline the penalty and save the point. Yeah, but he made the goal line easily, I thought. We already asked that one. Steve says wide receivers have been underwhelming this season. I feel like there are so many drops. It feels like there have been more drops lately. Like they're coming on, or maybe it's just like the pressure is mounting because of each game and what you're doing for this season. Whereas like if you have a drop against Kent State in game 2, it's like, oh, that's not that big of a deal. But if you have like a drop versus BYU in a 10-point game, you're like, oh man, we need those points. All right. Extra comes back and says, going back to our drops conversation, it should have been more than 29, and it comes down to the wide receivers. I like Juice, but dang, man, the wide receivers don't have that dog in them. Should Micah replace Coy? What's up with him? I don't know what's going on with Aiken, because as much as we complain about him, then he turns around and makes a play. A lot like what I was complaining about CD last week. He seems like disengaged for a second and then makes just a fantastic play. I don't want to short Caleb Douglas, like that first touchdown today in the corner of the end zone, man. That toe tap. Oh my gosh, it was fantastic.
Wow, yes.
I hated the play call when it happened. Like, it was like 2nd and 5, and we were screaming like we need to run the ball. We need to keep the momentum going on the ground. 2nd and 5, like, okay, let's run the ball. And it was like a one step throws the fade into the corner. Like, what are we doing? And then comes down with it like, that's what we're doing. We're taking a shot to the end zone. I don't know what's going on with Aiken. I don't love him back there to return punts. There was one that it was early on in the game. He dove to make the catch. It's like, oh, what are we doing? We can't be doing that. He did have a couple of great decisions to let punts go over his head today, and that was something I've complained about before. There was one, he let a punt go, and like it hit the ground and then like rocketed into the end zone. I was like, oh, that was a good choice, because the BYU coverage team was on him. He lets it go, and just the way it hits, it just fires downfield. Like, oh, that was great. Manny says the field goals for touchdown scoring issue, I'm worried will come back to haunt Tech. Yeah, I would love to see a lot more of these red zone trips finish in touchdowns than field goals. Michael mentioned it. There was a stat brought up in the broadcast. I looked it up, and I had it pulled up a second ago. But I think you have 47 red zone trips, and you've scored 27 touchdowns on those 47 trips.
Yeah, 57%. Does that include today?
I think it should. This is from the NCAA website.
Okay. We will confirm on Tuesday.
Because it says through 9 games. So no, this is not include today. This is before today. College Huddle, big win today, boys. Congrats, my friends. Look forward to working with y'all into the CFP.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Eric. Went on his show. We picked a handful of games. I couldn't tell you how I'm doing on the picks, but I know I took Texas.
I like that you and I pick games every week, and then it's just out the ether. I don't know what I picked. I don't know why. You and I don't follow up on it. Because it doesn't matter. Maybe our listeners would do that and see how wrong or right we were. But we pick the Tech game every week, and we remember that, and we go over that. But yeah, I love it. We pick every Big 12 game and sometimes a couple more, and then
we don't track.
Never go back.
That's what it was. We don't track our picks of the rest of the Big 12 games. Steve says, y'all, I'm genuinely surprised Emma Rodriguez hasn't landed a helicopter in the Jones yet. I fully expected it with it being Veterans Day weekend. I think I saw that was rumored, or maybe it was just somebody saying that would be really cool, about a flyover, but they don't do flyovers during a shutdown. But had there not been, I think there was rumblings that they were trying to get her to do a flyover, which would be just something else. That'd be really cool. I wonder what the BYU fans thought about all the love to Jacob Rodriguez and Emma on the broadcast. Not that they would have complained about it. I don't think they were fantastic. Okay, so one, I want to talk about the environment broadcast. When they showed the stripe out on the stadium, it was fantastic. Well done, everybody. I thought it was also really great. The BYU fans that were wearing their blue, you had the red, white, and blue on a Veterans Day weekend game. It looked like just a beautiful flag, man. It was fantastic. I loved it. I also loved that as the game wore on and it was not really in question, that the Texas Tech fans stayed. Like, it didn't empty out. You didn't get like a bunch of people leaving. Not that it was like just a crazy environment to the very end, but you just didn't have people leaving.
Nope.
And that's not been the case. So
no,
you were at the game. I want to hear your thoughts, your experiences today in the stadium.
Yeah. So as I mentioned, I did, because of youth basketball conflicts, I did not get there until probably halfway through the second quarter. So I missed all of the festivities and kind of the real hype and stuff at the beginning. But so I can tell you that the crowd I was around was pretty frustrated with the offense. Overall, they seemed to know ball pretty well. Defense was great. Everybody was up and standing and cheering for pretty much almost every defensive play because they were all that exciting and they all felt that important. Felt like they were going to get to Bachmeier any given second. Kind of finally did towards the end, but it took a little bit to get there. The stadium was packed. Like you said, they stayed. They were absolutely engaged. I looked over to my wife at one point at the end, and after the game was over and McGuire and everybody was shaking hands with the BYU folks, and I said, man, this is such a different world where Texas Tech just knocked off a top 10 team and no one's storming the field. And of course, right then, a few people started storming the field. At least started in the northwest corner, but it was a very a very gentlemanly pace. Stormed. I wouldn't call it stormed. They strolled. They strolled onto the field.
Celebrated the victory on the field with the team.
Yeah,
much like the basketball.
There we go. I read some of that later, that it was kind of similar to what McCaslin does when he invites the students to come out on the court after the opposing team's gone and everything. So but still, it wasn't a barnstorming. Everybody just acted like they'd been there before, which was really nice. I didn't see any tortillas. Don't care. Students got a little bit ahead of themselves, saying some pretty rough chants there for a minute, but shut up. So that was good during that unsportsmanlike penalty that we discussed earlier. But man, you're right. The stripe out looked fantastic. The weather was great. Crowd was engaged. Couldn't have asked for a better day. I just loved it. I loved the experience. I liked being there. And yeah, our row was just absolutely crowded. the whole time I was just, if I was sitting, which wasn't very much, my shoulders were just in. I did brag on the BYU blue. I know this is not the blue you like. You prefer the navy. And I was bragging on that to my wife, who did not appreciate it because she grew up outside of Louisville and actually went to Louisville for 3 of her 4 years. And she immediately said, "That looks like Kentucky blue," and was not a fan. So I think she probably appreciated the red, white, and blue imagery, but the shade of blue, she could do without. So I get that. But I thought it looked great. Oh, one thing I didn't like, though. Okay, maybe the galvanized uniforms would look better at night. They looked fine, but I've got an old man take that I have a feeling Brian Jensen and John Harris had too, because they do like to complain about not being able to read numbers. And I get it, because that is their job. I bet they had some issues with this today because I couldn't read the numbers. It was too close to the white. In that full sun, they would glare.
Mm-hmm.
And you just like, who was that? What just happened? You didn't know. I mean, I credit to Cowan for sticking with it as the PA announcer and getting all those numbers right. But at least on the east side, man, that sun was just reflecting off of that stuff a lot, and it just seemed kind of silly. But hey, we'll take whatever the greatest player in NFL football wants to throw at our way. We'll take it. And we'll gladly wear it and do whatever he wants us to do.
Yeah. Related to that, there were times in the broadcast where like the white in the full sun was like it was the cameras were having a hard time representing it. If that makes, like, it was like blown out and like it was glowing almost.
Sure.
Because of and yeah, they probably would have looked like incredibly sharp at night and under the lights that way.
Yep.
And you can't control what time you play the game. That's set by the TV people. But I was looking for I was trying to figure out what the attendance was. Do you remember them announcing anything?
I do not remember them announcing anything. I didn't even leave my seat. I tell you what, man, I was so nervous all day. I realized after the game that all I had eaten was like a breakfast bar at 7:40 this morning. So we stopped by. Okay, I've got to tell you where. We stopped by Ike's on the way home, Ike's Woodfire Grill over on 82nd and Quaker, for those of you who have not been there. It was the perfect place to go because it was pretty cleared out. And as we sat there, just more and more and more people came in that obviously were at the Tech game. And what was funny is there was groups of people wearing red or groups of people wearing white or whatever. So that just shows you how well the stripe out worked. But I mean, I've had some good meals lately, but probably because I was so hungry, this was a 10 for 10, man. It was $18 for and I really wanted a steak. I was like, I want a victory steak, but I was too cheap to pony up for the ribeye or something. And so I got the sirloin. It was fantastic, Spencer. It was just, it was a really perfectly cooked sirloin with garlic butter on top. And they do actually, you can tell it's cooked over a wood fire grill, twice baked potato, charro beans, brother. That hit was as good as, Wisniewski's on Bachmeier trying to hurdle, whatever that was. But yeah, that steak hit just as hard. It was great.
All right. I saw this one. It reminded me of a couple more signs from game day. One, it was a picture of a couple of LDS missionaries, but their heads had been photoshopped with Joey McGuire and Baron Morton and said, "Have you heard the good news of Texas Tech?" I appreciated that one.
It was, this wasn't a sign, but our friend the Lubbockist, I think, had something similar where it was Raider Red knocking on a door in a short sleeve white shirt and a skinny black tie. I appreciated that, but that was just on Twitter. That wasn't a sign.
Yeah, and then there was one. I'm going to
There's
butcher.
some chances are Cougars references I remember seeing that I don't,
that's
but
not
I don't
where I
know
was
if they made the broadcast.
That's not where I was going to go. It was the talking about we convert more third downs than your missionaries or something. I don't know. It was something missionary related about conversions, but like Texas Tech football related to converting something to their missionaries converting. Anyways,
Did we mention that, by the way? Third down defense was insane. 3 of 14.
We did not.
BYU just could not get a first down.
And they were 1 of 3 on fourth down. Texas Tech was 7 of 18 on third.
Yeah, 4 of 17 combined on third and fourth. Sheesh. Good job, defense.
Yeah. All right. I'm not finding it, but I'm gonna end it there. One more comment. Chris says it was really fun seeing the going band in the background of the broadcast and Patrick Mahomes being really into the fight song and Matador song. Such a great atmosphere.
Yeah, that was one thing I noticed when I came home and watched the first half. You know, they showed Mahomes a couple of times on the Jumbotron. Didn't really know where he was until I got home and I could see where he was in the southwest corner of the south end zone. But anyway, one thing I appreciated so much, this just kind of shows how much he's into Tech sports, is BYU missed their field goal and he's over there celebrating and talking trash. I don't even know what he was saying, but I don't know. He was saying something, and I just thought, man, of course he's 90 feet up in the air and he's still screaming something about how BYU just missed a field goal. He's one of us. That's my guy.
Okay, so to his right, that was like up against the wall. Was that Amendola?
The zoom ins I saw didn't go far enough to the right. So I didn't recognize anybody in the zoom ins that I saw, at least.
Because I know it showed him next to Campbell a couple of times, but I'm pretty sure if I
the
can
only one I
project
recognized was Brittany, but I didn't recognize anybody else. Oh, BJ Simmons was honored today in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, and
I mean, a couple other players too, of course, but
fellow Gaucho Picador, Mike was honored as the veteran there at the game.
Yes, that's right. That was great.
All right, I'm gonna turn the audio off of this and I'm gonna find it because it was during the replay of the CD touchdown or the review of it. That didn't look like him. Oh, hold on. Let me see if I can share this really quickly. Oh, but I'm on the wrong screen. And then I promise we'll be done. Yes. All right. Can you see this?
Yes, I can see that.
Okay. Over here, black jacket, white hat.
I don't think that's Amendola. No, that's not Amendola. His head's too big. Too thick. Too thick in the neck.
Okay. I was trying to figure out what or who that was, but
yeah, my wife was asking me who are all those people around Mahomes, and I had no clue. I don't know.
Anyways, all right. Well, shoot, man. Guns all the way up. Texas Tech wins 29-7. Takes down number 7 BYU at home in front of the great crowd, in front of the just astronomical numbers. I'm sure the network, the broadcast is going to share with us. UCF will be up next. We'll be back on Tuesday for a recap of this game, full recap, a preview of the Golden Knights. For Michael, I'm Spencer. Catch you guys next time.
Thank you for listening to the 23 Personnel Podcast. Help us out by subscribing, rating the show, and leaving a review. Follow us on Twitter at 23 Personnel, Spencer at PuntSuck, and Michael at Michael_LBK. Be sure to catch the next episode. And until then, guns up and let the tortillas fly.